This video is dedicated to Christian Roberts. Christian, thank you. Yorion Sky Nomad versus Firesong and Sunspeaker, Baral Chief of Compliance, and Yidris Maelstrom Wielder. If it wasn't for that Mystic Remora and the fact that we get to go second, I wouldn't keep that hand, but yeah, we'll go Mystic Remora. We can get that out on turn 1 and hopefully draw some cards with people getting their rocks out and stuff. And already seeing a non-creature spell being cast in land tax from the Firesong and Sunspeaker player, who is a patron by the way, the only one around at the moment, Bugden. And then the other two, Doom on Baral is an internet random, as is Kaletra36 on Yidris. And well, that's alright, isn't it? So we can go Sea of Clouds, I think. Yes, we definitely have 2 or more opponents. So let's go in for the Mystic Remora and hope that we can see some more non-creature spells coming in from our opponents. There we are, already been rewarded a Sol Ring from the Yidris player. Won't help them get into their commander quicker unless they've got coloured rocks to get into from there. Yeah. Mox Amber isn't going to be switched on either until they get their commander in play, or another legendary of some kind at least. And then they just tap out with the Sol Ring and pass, so I don't know if they really ought to have cast the Mox Amber there. Maybe they thought that they could go into a Cultivate from there or something, forgetting that the Mox Amber is switched off. Wow, and a Mox Diamond as well, so we've got some potentially competitive players here, but we're drawing lots of cards from the Mystic Remora. We've already gotten our land sorted out. Then Baral comes down straight away on turn 1, and they got rid of a Flooded Strand for that, by the way, for the Mox Diamond. A tap land from Bugden, and they've gotten down their Emeria. Don't know how easy that's going to be for them to get off, because there'll obviously be mountains in here as well. And I don't know how many creatures they'll really care about in Firesong and Sunspeaker, but this is one I've been meaning to revisit. Don't think I've ever played it on the channel, but I really like the idea of Firesong and Sunspeaker. Nothing for us to do on turn 2, so we might as well draw even more cards. I will probably let it go next turn. So let's just drop ourselves an island so that the Castle Vantress can come in untapped. And then we get rid of a couple of cards. I think I might actually ditch the Castle Vantress now I'm thinking of it. I'm assuming that we're going to be drawing into more cards, although we might not. Well, we definitely get rid of the Ingester. Yeah, let's risk getting rid of a land here and hope that we just draw into another one. There's another one, Supreme Will from the Yidris player. So it looks as though this might actually be a very non-creature spell intensive game. Certainly from Baral. I would think from the Firesong and Sunspeaker, like we said. It seems as though Yidris has lots of them as well. Then Baral comes in at us because we're drawing a bunch of cards, as you would expect. And no doubt holding up counter magic. Baral is pretty much counter magic.deck. And they will hold any counter magic that they've got for us. So it might have to be a Swords to Plowshares over there. Another Plains for the Boros player, and they go in for a Sunforger. I typically like to cast this as an 8 mana spell. Play, equip and activate it. But I don't think anyone's looking towards them with their Sunforger anyway. I think everyone's looking at us because of all the cards that we've got in hand, and because of the fact that we are a blue-white flicker deck. People tend to be really frightened of those. And they are really good decks typically. So do we want to... yeah, if I played out the Mystic Gate last turn. Yeah, I think I've played the lands in all the wrong order. I'd like to hold up Swords to Plowshares for the Baral. Yeah, I think I'm just going to play around again. Maybe we draw into white. No, we do not. Not drawing into any of our rocks apparently. But we're not drawing into any more lands either, so yeah, hopefully we'll draw into one with the Mystic Remora again, and then we'll probably have to let it go next turn. We'll drop the Chroma's Memorial, and we'll drop Venser as well. I'd like to have kept Venser, we could have done, if I'd played the right lands, because we could have gone for Swords to Plowshares on our turn there, onto Baral. And got on a counter spell out of their hand. Pour over the pages, draw 3, untap 2 lands, then discard a card. And we continue to hunt for lands, which apparently we're not going to get into. Then a disdainful stroke onto the port over the pages. That was no doubt held up for us. But we're still drawing cards, still not getting into any lands. Maybe shouldn't have discarded that Castle Vantris. And then thanks to the disdainful stroke, Baral gets to loot. They discard Echo of Eons. I don't think we've seen a single creature card other than Baral yet, so now it's a call to mind, returning the... yeah, that was the disdainful stroke, and they've got the mana held up for that, hitting us for 1 again. And we finally get into another land, so I'm really glad that we went so hard on Mystic Remora, because we had to clear a lot of stuff off the top in order to get to that 1 land. Now, is Bugden going to miss a land drop? Because if they do, then the land tax, no, they do get into Temple of Triumph. I was going to say the land tax will start to trigger for them next turn if they do, because we're playing a land. Anyway, finally getting into their red mana. And with that, I think it's... do we just keep going with Mystic Remora? No one's really doing anything. We can't just play around counter spells the whole time. I say we go for another round, because we can still Swords to Plowshares our opponent's creature. Alright, Son Simulacrum, that'll be good for next turn, so I've said this a few times now, but I think Mystic Remora is going down next turn. Let's go for a Swords. That gets bounced back to our hand. And what we should really have done there is done that on our opponent's turn and forced them to counter on their own turn, but I just wanted as fewer cards in hand as possible. But we get to keep our Swords to Plowshares here at least. And again, Baral gets a loot, and of course, the player whose graveyard you want to keep track of, the graveyard won't stay open. Getting rid of Prismatic Vista. Wow, and we've got a lot of cards to ditch now. So Momentary Blink has flashback, we can get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of Austere Command because I don't know if we're going to be using it this game. I mean, we might do very later on, but I'm not going to keep hold of it for the entire game. Thassa, I don't think we'll be able to land. I don't think we'll be able to land anything that's in hand at the moment, to be honest. And then we'll bin Flickerwisp as well. Flickerwisp can come back with Sun Titan if we manage to get that in. That's a nice little combination between those two. Yidris just tapping out and passing the turn there. I hope they're not scared of Baral's counter magic. That's really not the way to play against Baral. You need to keep playing spells into the counters and hope that they can burn themselves out of counter magic. This isn't, what is it called? Card advantage, don't forget. They get 1 card and they get to ditch 1, so it's card filtering more than anything. So they can counter things all they like, but what they can't do is keep themselves in cards a lot of the time. Unlike us, I've never had a Mystic Remora do as well as this. We get into another land for next turn, so we could always go for our commander and flicker this if we want to. Doubt we'll go for that because it won't land. Anyway, our opponent obviously gets to tutor for something here. And it is a Time Twister. They've already got a Time Twister in the graveyard, so yeah, that seems like a bit of a strange one to tutor for to me. And there it is, the Time Twister. Doesn't matter what card we draw because it's all going to get shuffled around anyway. Alright, finally getting to a small rock. We get the Venser back. Some other lands, yeah, more lands than we've ever seen this game, and Smothering Tithe as well. Don't have a lot by means of flicker and things like that, but yeah, we've got some things that we can do at least. Then following things up with a Ponder, and there's an Ixodron. Yeah, so we've got answers for our opponent's stuff, but we don't, we don't necessarily have a means of actually getting them into play, not anytime soon. And now they get themselves into a Sol Ring as well, so doing a better job of ramping than the rest of us as well. And of course now we start getting into the lands when we don't need any more. And no counter magic being held up perhaps. A Vidalcan Shackles. So we have to be careful what we play out. I think it's going to be a Smothering Tithe for us. We could just go for Ixodron next turn and take them off of their Baral forever. Until someone plays a board wipe, that is. Another Baral, Chief of Compliance, coming in at us. Or do we get Smothering Tithe down whilst our opponent is tapped out? I'd I'd love to go for that Exodron and take them off of their commander, but I think they're going to have a lot of wheels and be able to get into lots of cards regardless of whether their commander's in. So I think we need to try and keep up on mana with Smothering Tithe. A Solemn Simulacrum for the Boros player. And now is time to finally say goodbye to the Mystic Remora. I think we need to actually start progressing our board. There's a Sun Titan. I was just thinking, hopefully we get into the Sun Titan for the Mystic Remora, and it may well be that we can do that. Let's try and get Arcane Signet out, and that can go, yeah, then we can go land into Smothering Tithe. And if the Baral player is relying on wheels to get themselves into cards, then Smothering Tithe will be really good for us. We'll just bin the Irrigated Farmland here because it's a tap land. Not too worried about that. Yidris is just one colour away from their commander now, and there is a Mana Morphos, so it may well be that we see their commander now. They can afford it. They'll have a little bit of mana left over once the Moxamba is switched on. That does draw them another card for another treasure onto us. Although they can afford to pay for it, which might be what they're doing here. They do pay for it. And there is Yidris, Maelstrom Wielder. They might be able to give it haste with a Moxamba. Lots of red cantrip spells that can give something haste, but it doesn't look as though they're going to do that. So if we can land Ixodron next turn, we actually get rid of 2 commanders. That is a big if, though. I doubt we'll be able to use Venser to counter one of Baral's counters, because they'll be so cheap and they have so much mana that they'll just be able to recast it again. Another tutor from them, Impersonal Tutor. And it's Baral turns by the looks of it, so hopefully they don't get a bunch of extra turns off in a row. A Glimpse of Freedom as well is just draw a card, which will give us more Tithe triggers. The more cards they draw, the more mana we're going to get, the more chance we've got of getting down an Ixodron. They're going to draw another one on their next turn, because if we can try and bait their counter magic out with a Reflector Mage or even a Sun Titan, something like that, then that would work out nicely for us. They come in at us again with their Baral, and then they're tapping down their Vidalcan Shackles and taking control of Yidris. They've got just enough islands to do that. No prizes for guessing who they're going to swing in at Yidris with. They can give a bunch of their spells Cascade, and Yidris and a Baral deck shouldn't have any trouble cascading into a bunch of stuff. So dealing some actual damage now, coming in for 6 at us, and I'm just hoping they don't have like extra turns cascade into other extra turns and stuff like that. Pull from tomorrow now, that will be 4 treasure counters for us most likely. And they cascade into Narset, part of the Veils. Hopefully we don't see one of those wheels we know they have. We do actually have enough treasures to hold up Venser now, so if they do go in for a wheel, we need to take ourselves off of yields and yeah, hold up the counter for that. They've got another chance to get into a wheel if that's the type of play they want to go for with the Narset. Now Mana Crypt as well. And they cascade a whole bunch. In fact, they'll cascade their entire deck, won't they? Because I doubt they've got any CMC 0 spells in here that they can cascade into. So you can have a look through Baral's list here as I slowly tap through it all. If you're interested in such things, might have to get it up on a computer monitor if you want to be able to read it. Then they go for an activation on Narset. And they reveal themselves a Time Spiral. So hopefully no one early scoops here because we do have counter magic for that. See what they cascade into first. There's no point in bouncing the Time Spiral if they're just going to cascade into another wheel. We could probably work out which spell they cascade into actually if we look at the top of their library that they revealed first. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, they get into Essence Scatter, which doesn't do anything. We will go Venser onto that, and I think we're free to go for Ixodron next turn. So definitely the right play, going for the Smothering Tithe apparently. Might be that they've got Force of Will or something, but Venser comes down. I don't think they can counter abilities for free. So we'll give them the Time Spiral back. We could give them back the Narset and shuffle it all away. But I might do that next turn. Although they could probably go Time Spiral and Narset anyway next turn. Yeah, so there's an argument to be made for us shuffling away the Narset, but I like the idea of getting down Ixodron and switching off their commanders next turn. I'm hoping, actually, that the Solemn Simulacrum is going to go in at Narset to switch off that Time Spiral. It won't be anywhere near as bad as it would be. We'll obviously still draw a load of cards and they'll untap lands, but it's much better than us just shuffling things, yeah, and that gets rid of Narset, so yeah, I actually might welcome the Time Spiral next turn. And now going for a Sunforger activation. You don't often see a main phase Sunforger. Maybe it's removal for the Smothering Tithe. Maybe removal for the Shackles. Yeah, there we go. It's Crush Contraband on both of those. I'll take that trade. Yeah, that's a really good one from our opponent. Getting rid of that, as well as the Smothering Tithe. The two threats at the table that we were worried about. That's really good. So the Yidris comes back over here. And it looks as though everyone's tapped out. We get an Omen of the Sea. Now, we'll play a land. How much can we do this turn? We've got 5. And then 5, so 12 mana. Ixodron is 5. That's 6. So we can't quite go for Omen of the Sea. I think it's Ixodron and Sun Titan onto the Mystic Remora to keep us in cards. So let's swing at Venser in at the mono blue player, and then we'll go in for Ixodron first so that we don't flip our Sun Titan onto its front. So there we go, we get rid of a couple of commanders there, as well as our own Venser, which can be flickered, and we'll get the ability back on that because it will flicker face up. Getting rid of a Solemn as well, which I don't think really matters. Now let's go for this Sun Titan, and we will try and keep ourselves in cards. Noteworthy that the flip down cards, or the face down cards, are still commanders. So there's still commander damage to worry about, especially with Baral keep coming into us, although it only got us up to... Oh no, Baral got us up to 5 points of commander damage. I thought it was a lot less than that. I thought it was around 3. Oh, but they got an extra turn, didn't they? Anyway, we're on 5 points of commander damage from Yidris. And then they come in at us to put us on... That'll be 7 points of commander damage, which is something to worry about. Especially if someone plays a board wipe and gives it back to them. Maybe there's a deal to be struck between these two. They'll block each other. Oh, there's a 1,000-Year Storm. Yeah, that's a pretty rough one. We get into Teferi's Time Twist off of the Remora. It's at the beginning of the next end step, so we can save a permanent with that if we want to. Or we can flicker Venser. Although it won't flicker fast enough to actually counter something. We can bounce a permanent though. Then offering up their Baral to us as well. Mystic Sanctuary from our opponent. They fetch that with one of their fetch lands. So that gets them back into an extra turn card. Maybe we do have to worry about commander damage with Baral eventually. Can they draw the card? Is the question. This is why it's so important to get rid of Baral, because the looting effect could have got them into the extra turn card quite easily there. Deep Analysis for yet more card draw for us. Get ourselves into a Mull Drifter, so we shouldn't have too much trouble keeping our handful of cards this game. Then a Commit puts a permanent on top of its owner's library. If they go for a wheel, they'll end up giving us that. We'll definitely use the ability, get into another land. And we know that they've still got the Spiral, but I don't think they can afford it now. Oh, but of course, yeah, they've got the Temporal Manipulation, which they grabbed off of the Deep Analysis, so they can still go for the Spiral in their next turn. So as much stuff as we're doing here, and as much cards as we're drawing, I don't think we've shown ourselves to be anywhere near as frightening a threat as the Baral player has. Narset into wheels is not very nice. So I think everyone should have their eyes locked over here, but it might be that they're looking towards us. Ooh, Tidespout Tyrant, we don't like that one. Return a target permanent to its owner's hand whenever you cast a spell. Yeah, that's a pretty rough one. So they'll be able to bounce their own Baral as well as a load of lands. Yeah, I'll bet you any money this player goes after our lands. Dig Through Time exiles a bunch of stuff from the graveyard. They've gotten rid of their Deep Analysis, Ponder, Personal Tutor, Glimpse of Freedom, Pull from Tomorrow, a land, and they don't care about the memory. And then returning a permanent, they return their Mana Crypt, curiously. Although maybe they're desperate for the mana, they can play it out for free and then do something for 4 mana. And of course that counts as casting a spell as well, so alright, generating even more mana, this time bouncing a Sol Ring. I don't know if they played a land this turn, but they might be setting up an extra turn spell because they've got 5 mana after the Sol Ring here. Oh, of course they can bounce the Mana Crypt and go in for the Time Spiral, can't they? That'll get them into the additional mana that they need. So they do bounce the Mana Crypt. They'll have 7 mana, including 2 blue, after they've played and tapped the Crypt. Alright, bouncing their Sol Ring again, so are they just going for infinite colourless? Just asked them if they have infinite, but then they bounced our Prairie Stream. So, yeah, I don't know if they are going for the infinite mana, or if they're just generating enough to do something in their hand. Looks like they are casting a spell now. It's an extra turn, excellent, Nexus of Fate. And what are they going to bounce this time? Bouncing another land, what did I say? And surprisingly the Baral, not swinging in at us, going in towards the Yidris player. And there is an overloaded Cyclonic Rift. Don't forget that we're playing against a couple of randoms who obviously aren't going to comply with our ban list because they don't even know about it. Then continuing to come in at us, we'll go up to 9 points of commander damage. And this is all of us out of the game probably. Unless someone can deal with a Tidespout Tyrant when they untap. Continuing to make infinite mana seemingly. Yeah, it's funny, he's I was asking before, like I said, if he had infinite mana for a win con like I don't know, it's usually Laboratory Maniac into drawing your deck with an X spell, something like that, Blue Sun Zenith or something. But apparently not. Apparently he doesn't have that, and it's rubbing everyone up the wrong way. Have they bounced any more of our stuff? No, they're just continuing to do the infinite mana trick with Sol Ring and Mana Crypt. So it's time to fast forward, I think. Generating 19 points of colourless mana, and then they just bounced a Boros land. Well, there's an X spell. Look at the top X cards of your library, put 1 into your hand and the rest on the bottom. That ought to get them into a win condition with infinite mana, surely. I'm assuming it's like, you know, what I said, lab man, draw all your cards, etc. and so forth. Then going for an impulse and continuing to bounce the Crypt. So concentrating on generating mana again. They've since got down, not that, a Sapphire Medallion, which should make it easier to get more of their blue spells off, although obviously they still only have a finite amount of blue mana. And still only 3 cards in hand. We obviously don't know what they put on top of their library with, where is that spell? Flash of Insight, which, you know, the graveyard won't stay open because why would it, Modo? Oh, and it has flashback as well. And they've got quite a few blue cards in the graveyard, so they could make use of that. But anyway, I'll be very surprised if they don't have a win condition in hand. Treasure Cruise, that bounces another one of our lands. We go down to 3. What else has come down? Another Nexus of Fate. And they've played a Springleaf Drum as well. So the win condition of the deck apparently is to go infinite with mana and play as many spells as possible and bounce everyone's permanents back to hand, everyone's lands specifically. Another ban in our play group is not play mass land destruction, and I would count this as mass land destruction if you're bouncing everyone's lands back to hand. Anyway, they get an extra turn here, so they have no doubt won this one. They could easily bounce all of our lands back this turn, I imagine. Oh, and somehow they've gotten their Baral back. Not sure how they did that. I was just chatting with everyone there. That's the exile pile. They've got Dig Through Time, extra turn stuff. Oh, they probably bounced it with the Tidespout Tyrant, of course. Yeah, so bouncing the Baral back to hand and then playing it again. I don't know how people aren't bored doing this type of thing. I would be incredibly bored playing these types of games. Time Spiral finally being cast. There's a couple of plains and a couple of islands in play. Yeah, I was just playing this out for the recording, obviously, and for the sake of showing you all, a Baral game. For any of you that don't know why Baral is such a hated commander, this is it. It's your typical mono blue, extra turns, one-sided wheels, counter everything. It's pretty typical of mono blue, but it's specifically annoying with Baral because of the card filtering and stuff, and the fact that he's really cheap. Anyway, we have well and truly lost the game fair and square here, so hopefully we will get a good Yorion game at some point. I imagine you've seen the actual Yorion game. Yeah, by the time you're seeing this, you'll have probably seen the good Yorion game, so hopefully you all enjoyed this one anyway. And be sure to leave it a thumbs up and comment on what you think of this game, if you did or didn't like it, and I will see you all in the next one, I hope. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.